listening to Flow FM 92.7, your go with the Flow radio station. It's Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2025. 8 o'clock, welcome to the Headline News Review. And that's where we analyze some of the headlines we brought to you at 7 o'clock. I am Adedayo, Adeyemi.
I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Joining us this morning, Nicholas Wamanoya. How are you doing this morning? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Don't forget as well, too, you can join in by calling to leave your comments or maybe take a position on some of these soon-to-be-discussed stories on 0807 777 9927. 0807 777 9927. Please, let's state categorically that the views expressed on the program is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7, but solely as expressed by the analyst and call reactions that we get this morning. So let's get right into it. But before then, again, we'd have this information for you.
We'd like to let you know that we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, and it's on Facebook at Flow FM NG and on YouTube at Flow FM 927. So you can get on any of these apps and get in on the live action happening in the studio right now. Into the conversation, this one is about the telcos and about the USSD debt. It's saying that the Nigerian Communications Commission and telecommunications companies have ruled out any extension to the deadline for banks to settle the unstructured supplementary service data debt. That's USSD.
Okay. Well, that tells you that the other day we were talking about this tariff increase, and that is one of the avenues with which they can get their money, where they can get revenue. That is the use of servicing banks with this USSD thing. So we're talking about 250 billion naira, and that they are owing, and of course. So, when you owe the telecommunication, when you owe them that kind of a money, you know that, they are really, sweating blood. So I kind of back the resolution of NCC on that matter. And considering the fact that USSD is very, very important, I think they need to get their acts together because, that's about the only short code that you use to do transaction without the internet. And what it simply tells you is that it's very, very penetrating, that it cuts across both the rural and urban area, even where you don't have internet. So they just have no option but to pay up that money. And don't forget that the US is very, very essential, not just in banking transaction. In the area, that is where it's through that code that you use to, your phone, interacts with your subscriber. So if you need to get information on your NIN, you need to get information on your BVN and things like that. It's the USSD code that you use. Then the areas of mobile banking, it's equally applicable there too. So it's a very important aspect of banking and telephony, that can't be neglected. So they have to pay their dues.
Let's look at it from the banking sector and that of the telecoms as well. Now, just for clarification's sake, now when you dial the USSD code, say for example for the bank, for a particular commercial bank, there is a certain amount of money deducted. Who gets that money?
Well, I think I'm not sure who actually get, but I think there is a split. The bank gets its own, and the NCC gets their own. I think the banking sector have gotten theirs. But remitting what is due to the NCC is where the problem lies right now.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah. So that is where I think the problem is. So normally you see, they get all this money and they warehouse it. You understand? The bank warehouse it. Of course, you know what banks do. They transact with money. Short-term loan, long-term loan, and things like that. So, in the bid to do that, they tend to incur debt over time and say, okay, they can delay and pay later. So probably that is what has resulted. That is what has happened. Yeah.
Okay, so but what would you say the consequences would be for these banks who are unable to meet the deadline by the close of business?
It's clear. NCC said they are going to disconnect them from the US. They won't be able to use it, and that is going to cripple a lot of it's going to cripple a major operation within those banks. I think there are about 6 of them now that are left to pay up that money. And they are giving them till Monday. That's next week. So it's going to cripple. It's going to be. Of course, they are going to pass the burden to their
customers.
The customers, they are going to pass the burden to them. So, the more reason why I think there should be some kind of middle ground, even if they are unable to pay, so that the commercial activities do not get crippled, in those affected banks.
All right. Let's move away. Let's talk about former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as one that Nigeria is on the verge of losing its hard-fought democracy if it continues on this current trajectory.
Well,
Now, that's coming from a man who actually, is at some point, vice president of Nigeria, and of course, I'm still interested in running the affairs of Nigeria. So, what is it that we're doing wrong at this point to put us on that verge of losing democracy? If it's not something that we all should come together and build.
When you consider, apart from the fact that he's been a vice president and the fact that he's a presidential candidate, you have to look at Atiku before then. Atiku actually was in the trenches fighting for democracy. In fact, at some point he was exiled. He was on exile. We chased him out of this country because of the fight to install democracy and to move away from the military regime that we had in those days. So when someone like him talks, he talks with the benefit of hindsight. He's able to see that over time there has been this erosion of democratic values. When we transited into democracy in 1999, don't forget we had about 4 different parties. We have that is 3 different parties that are, that have their states they control. You have AD controlling the entire Southwest. Then you have PDP controlling both, the Southeast and National, which is has a national spread. Then you have APP first before they transited into ANPP. Then, of course, consider having a large chunk of the northern states in its control. So you have a multiplicity of choices for Nigerians to make their choices from. But over time, what did we get? What do we have now? We have just about 2 parties. Then only recently do we have a case where you have about 3 parties. You understand? So then, of course, you have to look at democracy is not just about voting. It's about the right to air opinion. You air opinion without any consequences coming at you. You understand? Can we say that is what is happening right now? The answer is no. There are more and more. You have a situation where there is a constriction of both options and your voice. You understand? You cannot air your voice now and you think it just goes that way. No. There will be repercussions from naysayers, from even the government in power. You recall what Peter Obi said recently, that being an opposition in Nigeria is very dangerous. You understand that it's now becoming more difficult to be in the opposition because all his friends now stay away from him, all his former business associates, then he feels threatened. So, and then only for a party member from APC to go and confirm that same allegation by making threats at the opposition. Of course, he came out later to deny things like that. But you see, that is what Atiku is saying. A situation where you are in the opposition, and there are local instances. If we have time, that can be denied. Local instances here, if you don't belong to the ruling party, it becomes a problem for you, to even participate in things that are not even partisan. So I think by and large, what Atiku is saying is what we should really be very concerned about. And I think the president should be very, very concerned about something like that because by his history, he's a Democrat. You understand? He's more of the progressive, politician. So he should be worried when calls like this are being made.
All right. Based off of that, do you also believe, from what you say, that we're looking at the realities on ground, the main opposition party, the ruling party, and just maybe one other party like that? Is it bad if we run a 2-party system kind of democracy, or is it also when you're on the opposition and then you make false statements? Shouldn't there be? There was a period under former President Muhammadu Buhari where there was that campaign against misinformation, some of all these things, false allegations here and there. Should there be repercussions or should there be lessons for that?
I get worried when people say there should be repercussions for misinformation. You understand? The reason why I said so is that already there are laws that take care of things like that. You have civil suits, that you can take. Misinformation can come as a result of so many things. Maybe properly managed information, the absence of access to detailed information, and there is this thing you call the notorious fact. Something that has been in the public domain for a very long time, unchallenged. So when somebody repeats it at a larger stage, it might, then it's at that point that you go and check and recheck it and discover that there is no truth in it. So how do you hold that person responsible when the people who are, who's the information concerns have never come out to debunk it over a long period, or it becomes what you call notorious fact? You understand? So there are so many issues involved. That is why, when it comes to information, airing one's view, a government must be circumspect. In fact, there is this case that was cited by Professor Farouk Berogi in one of his articles that I read. He talked about, a Supreme Court ruling, that freed a man who was taken to court, at the trial appeal court. The state government of the U.S. government had been winning. So it was more or less like a fait accompli. But when the Supreme Court justices decided on that matter, what they simply said is that, look, Mr. Governor, you have the paraphernalia of security at your beck and call. You have influence. You have people at your beck and call. This man that made this comment has only his voice. That this court will not silence that voice because that's all he has. So if you silence that, then that means there will be impunity. People cannot air their views freely, and the man was set free.
Logically thinking, if it's not as if we want to silence democracy in the country, but again, when there was that huge campaign against fake news and all, and we know the extent at which some of these things are quite, we know the volatility of the society and all,
exactly.
And some of these things can spark off civil unrest and all. So what I'm saying again is, you said there are laws that takes care of careless statements.
Exactly.
Then if that is implemented, the case of the United States guy that you talked about, if the court deemed it fit, okay, he's within the purview of his right to say things like that, of course the court will let him go.
Exactly.
But when it is, obviously there's a logical fallacy, it's a fake news, shouldn't we be worried to run a democracy?
That's what I said. There are laws. Okay, let's look at it.
If the laws are implemented, is it against democracy then?
No, it's not. But you see, the laws are often obeyed in breaches. That's what we're saying. We have the example of, the Daily Faroti meeting. We keep on going back there. We are talking of a non-existent law. And the police are willing to prosecute on a non-existent law. Those are some of the things that defines your democracy. The moment there is this cybercrime law has been repealed, the criminal aspect of it has been repealed by the president, but the police has been slow in the uptake of that review. So what else? How do you expect people like Atiku Abubakar to respond to such challenges?
And Nicholas, let's take a comment from the people. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for calling from Zongo.
What's your name, please?
Femi from Zongo.
All right, Femi from Zongo. It's good to have you. Good morning, Femi.
Good morning. I don't know. I just want to take you people to somewhere that they're not really discussing this morning, but I think it's a bit related to this. If those at the ends of the power are not doing the right thing, there's no way there won't be a bit of fake news, a bit of hate speech or stuff like that. Now check out the case of Shitta-Bey recently now. If you fail to do the right thing, if the citizens are trying to put it in perspective, there's no way it will not hit you somehow, if you are in power. Good morning.
All right. Thank you a lot, Femi. Well,
that's another fantastic angle.
Femi said, if those at the ends of affairs are not doing the right thing, and then they are trying to point it out. I think the conversation that we should get right is, if you say what is right,
okay,
and if you say what is true, the people nobody will come for you when you say what is true.
No. It doesn't always work that way.
When you lay things that will whip up civil unrest and anger. We're trying to build a democracy, and we should protect it by all means. Not we trying to destroy our democracy, which is not perfect anywhere around the world.
My point is, look, it is who determines what is truth. Who determines it? It's neither government, it's the fact that determines it. You understand? Now, look at the case that young man cited, the case of Shitta-Bey. You are talking of the retirement of IG. I think that was what led to his, being out. We are talking of a man who has, there has been talks about his retirement and things like that. You understand? Normally, what should government do? Open up the record. Has he finished his service? Is he due for retirement? Those are the things that government. That's how you respond to such things. But in the absence of such information, then you give room for speculation. Nature abhors vacuum.
Okay. Well, let's leave that conversation and on to this one about Buhari. He's talking about his life after presidency and saying that he's denying any corrupt enrichment as per like when he was in government, that there was anything that he did to enrich himself, and that the way he's sustaining himself after, presidency is through his rental income from a house in Kaduna. So he's just highlighting and saying he's avoiding any theory that he used the government himself as president to enrich himself.
Well,
and so he's living off of that now.
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari has ended his retirement. He has served 8 years, so he should go on retirement, and of course he deserves his peace. But having said that, I think that response came. I think it's a response to a certain things that have been going on online where he was. There is a picture of him spending dollar on a singer. You understand? And it raises the question as to a man that is believed to be Mr. Incorruptible spending dollar, on a singer. So he coming out to say that, that he's been living off rent. I think he should come off it. As a former president, we know that there are certain things that you get. There are certain benefits. You have done favors for people, and there is no sin in living off those things. You understand? It's not even about Africa. It's not even about this. It's a global thing. The moment you retire as the president of United States of America, if you are called to deliver speech, you get no less than $250,000. You understand? So it's not as if there is. You see, because of this, we tend to hypercorrect. In our tendency to show that we are not corrupt and things like that. So we tend to overdo things. And unfortunately, that is one of those factors that really affected Muhammadu Buhari's administration. He gave this impression that making wealth is kind of immoral. And which was a very, very big problem, and a very big image problem for Nigeria, for a lot of Nigerians. Because people who sit down and make wealth are not sinners. They are not immoral people. They are just businessmen. They know how to make money. You understand? And of course, a measure of your success as a leader is your ability to make money. It's your ability to manage resources and make money and break even. So if you go around advertising poverty, advertising a frugality, I don't see why somebody like me that is liberal minded will want to vote you, because I want prosperity. I want to pay my bills. You understand? So by and large, I think Mr. President should, the former president should come off those. I think he should have learnt by now. Like he said that when you are outside, it looks very easy, and which I'm happy he said that, because I recall. And during the campaign circuit in 2015, going to 2015, and we knew the kind of things he was saying. He talked about Boko Haram. He said, "What is Boko Haram?" When they said they were going to postpone the election because of Boko Haram, and he said, "What is Boko Haram? Nigeria fought civil war for so number of years that we ran the Chadian rebels out of Nigeria in less than how many hours." So, what is Boko Haram? He came in there. He fought Boko Haram all through. In fact, it metastasized under him. So, with that benefit now, I think he's now more wiser and more sober, about the issue of governance. But he needs to come off this, idea of glamorizing poverty. Yeah. He should come off it.
All right. So you obviously believe in it. Well, just for additional information, just like you mentioned, former presidents across the world are entitled to certain benefits, huge benefits as well. I know that of the United States, and that of Nigeria. Just recently, from the budgets, we know how much of them marked, for former presidents and all for their welfare and upkeep, and also a lot of Nigerians might probably not want to believe that coming from former president. But anyways, It's just for information out there, consumption. Let's go to another story. This time, we'll take a look at some of the main opposition party. We had their conversation yesterday, and it has to do with the National Executive, NEC meeting that we're going to have now scheduled for February this year, February 25th, 2025. And then the Southeast, PDP rejecting, Damagom's, call for them to convene for a meeting at, Abuja, slated for Tuesday today, 2 p.m. Again, further cementing some of the cracks within the within the PDP. Like I asked you yesterday, and your opinion was, well, the PDP is a very strong party with lots of, if you look at from 1999, they've been really with a lot of crisis, and one way or the other, they've survived it, one way or the other. Now, is this another one for them to, well, okay, they'll survive it, they'll pull through, or is further, cracking the PDP?
Well, for me, PDP has seen something worse than that. And I think the Southeast caucus should be very careful. How many states are under PDP in the Southeast? That's one question. You have Ebonyi is APC, Abia State is Labour Party, Anambra State is ABGA. Which other state is there again?
Enugu.
Enugu is PDP. So you have just one, that is under PDP. So they kind of sway, and you have all the power weights in PDP in those days have either retired or are just unconcerned about what is happening there right now. You talk of an active member like Olisa Metu, Anyim Pius Anyim, there are rumors that he's planning to, decamp, defect to APC. So they should be very careful about, what they think they have. Because at the end of the day, they might just discover that once you have Southwest, we have about, is it 2 PDP, put PDP ruling
yes,
states?
Oyo and Osun.
Oyo and Osun. You have the not, you have one in, you have that is Bauchi State, of course.
Bala Mohammed.
And maybe one or two other states like that. So you have all those ones. So they can decide if they have a meeting ground to hold a meeting. And again, they will be relegated into the background. So I think they need to be very, very careful about the position they take. Because sometimes in war you lose to gain, and you gain to lose. So they should make their choice.
Well, the South has been sympathetic of the PDP for a long time now. Now, what would this say to the national executive, committee of the PDP? Like, are they losing grip of the Southeast in terms of the popularity? And again, is this just a disagreement at the EXCO level, not the grassroots members of the PDP?
The thing about politics is that you never say never. But ostensibly, it looks like they are losing grip, and you can't blame them. We are talking of a party that has been steadfastly supportive of PDP over the years. Then you now have an opportunity where they could produce a candidate. You understand? For the 2023 election, and this is what you get. You understand? You get, they get the party ticket. You get it. You throw it open. Whereas when you look at 1999, it was actually zoned to the Southwest. You understand? So they have a grouse. They have reasons to say no. That is why people like Olisa Metu, who were original members of PDP, had to pull out, retire, so to say, from politics. So, it looks that way. But it doesn't mean that it is that way. And that's the thing about politics. Yeah. So you never say never. Maybe this might just be a way of, just sending a warning signal. But if they're able to rally, you can have people, a resurgence of PDP,
Okay.
Well, just lastly on that one, because you have just like I think like you mentioned, Enugu State, we just under the control of the PDP, you have Labour Party, you have Alex Soti, you have the APC running and ABGA, running. Now, how do you think this they can be that? Do you think they're still quite popular in the Southeast like that, the PDP, and of course the chances of reclaiming? They had a very strong hold. At some point, was just controlled by the PDP.
Yeah. You see, you cannot rule out that they still have a measure of influence there. You understand? As to whether they are in absolute control. You see, the thing about the politics of the Southeast is, the average woman is essentially Republican. You understand? It's there is a saying. When I went there to serve, they will tell you. They will say Igbo Amarize. That is Igbos, no king. What it means is that it's not as if they don't have, it's a consensus kind of thing. They run a consensus kind of decision making. So it's not that just one man decides that this is where everybody is good and everybody follows. No. You have to give reasons why we have to follow you. That is their way of doing things. You understand? You must have shown record that you can be trusted as a leader before they follow you. A party must have shown steadfastness to their interest before they can decide. So all the while they have been supporting PDP, they are now asking, that what is in there for us? If you recall this Chinua Achebe's book, Arrow of God, there was a saying about a God, that the people elevated and failed them, that they decided to burn the god and the priest and chose another god to serve. That sometimes when a god feels it's too big, they will show the god the tree from which its image was made from. That is, you see, that is in cosmology we call it. It's called anthropocentrism. The anthropocentrism of the African universe. That is, they tend to look at all those things, the culture, the gods, the cosmos. They bring it together to work for man. That is their way of doing things. It's not that you have an absolute God, like the Olympian concept of gods, that it's absolute. They decide whatever. No. There is also a saying about onye kwe chie ikwe. That is, when a man says yes, his chi says yes. You understand? A man makes his destiny. That is their saying. So it's a more of a practical kind of culture. You understand? It's not given to some of this, the other kind of, where you have to be gerontocratic. You have to consider certain norms. You have to consider. So the moment a culture does not favor it anymore, they jettison it. That is their way of looking at things. So maybe that is what is catching up with PDP right now. Right. So we don't know.
All right, let's take a look at this story before we round off on the analysis this morning. And this one is about the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 elections, Peter Obi. He's saying he has no interest in any coalition with the aim of grabbing power without talking about, the well-being of Nigerians.
Peter Obi has been very, very consistent with that message. And, as a credit to him, honestly, I think he has been walking the talk. Normally, after an election, the expectation is when you lose an election, you go on exile, you go on a hiatus. You understand? But the man has been all over the place. He has refused to go. You understand? And each time this conversation comes up, he has been maintaining that same mantra. And honestly, I think this is not because I think he is the best for Nigeria. No. I think more politicians should look in that direction. That it shouldn't be about power grab anymore. It should be about how do we properly reposition Nigeria, especially with what is happening in US and the global politics. We should take more interest in what is happening globally because we need to really reposition. Most countries are becoming looking inwards. They are becoming nationalistic. You understand? You have this all this drive about my country first, my country first. So when are we going to have it? With this ban on immigration and all those things that is happening all over the place. UK did their own. They did their own. US is now doing its own. So when are we going to get it? When are we going to tell ourselves the home truth that it's time we look inwards and reposition our politics in such a way that it benefits every Nigerian? And I think that's a message the man is giving, and I sincerely hope he really means it. You understand? Because yes, he has given me reason to believe that he actually means what he's saying, but he is human, and this is Nigeria. You understand? So by and large, I think that message, generally, I think more politicians should buy it, should key into it, and see, let's test it out and see. Maybe it might just be the one, you might just be the one to break that same, So by and large, I think it's worth really considering, really, for most politicians, if they are really patriotic about Nigeria.
And in terms of patriotism, is that the first point of interest for Nigerian politicians? The well-being of Nigerians.
The well-being of Nigeria should be. And the constitution is very clear on it. What is the purpose of government? The purpose of government is to make things okay for the average man on the street. That is it. So the moment your interest is divergent from that, then it's unpatriotic.
So are you of the opinion that Mr. Peter Obi sees some other politicians on that other side, and then he's on this side. Okay, I'm in the interest of Nigerians, and then he sees some
that would be
politicians within, probably talks that they might not probably have the interest of Nigerians at heart. It's just to wrestle power from the ruling party.
You see, look, let's not. Obi is not alone in this kind of thinking. Yeah, maybe all of them might have their own various interpretation of what patriotism is, but you cannot take it away from them. They are patriotic Nigerians, So that is it. It's not peculiar to him, but he has a way of saying his own side more clearly, more succinctly, in such a way that we have never had before.
Nicholas, thank you so very much for your time this morning. That's how far we can go. We're back tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock to 8:30. Thank you for joining us. And, of course, Femi, who called in as well, to thank you for your contribution. The views expressed is not in any way the position of Flow FM, but solely as expressed, by the caller and Nicholas Waronoya, the analyst this morning. Join us tomorrow. I am Adedayo, Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us.
Here to light up the city, 92.7, go with the flow. Feel your day with us.
Wahala.